Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, pull out the really potent insights from important sources, and basically give you that fast track to being genuinely well-informed.
And today we're jumping into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, sometimes controversial work. The 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah, definitely controversial.
Yeah.
So this deep dive is all about distilling what this book offers on, well, how power works.
Exactly. The book itself by Robert Greene, it has a dedication to Anna Biller and to my parents, RG. And Greene makes a point of thanking Anna Biller for, significant editing and research help.
Right. Good to know. And the core idea, the philosophy, is pretty stark, isn't it?
It really is. It views the world as this giant scheming court.
A scheming court. Wow.
Yeah, and it argues that trying to just opt out, be completely good or uninvolved, that only leads to powerlessness, misery even.
So the laws aren't exactly moral signposts then.
Not at all. They're presented as practical lessons, pulled from history, from the actions, and, importantly, the mistakes of others. The focus is really on understanding appearances and, well, strategic deception.
It's a very pragmatic take on how people interact, almost clinical.
It is, and
Yeah.
the aim isn't really to say do this, but more like, look, this is how things often work. It gives you a lens to see the hidden dynamics so you can make, more informed choices yourself.
Okay. So our mission today is to unpack these sometimes surprising insights about how power operates and maybe figure out what they mean for, well, for you listening.
Yeah, let's see how these historical moves maybe still play out today.
All right, let's unpack this. Okay, first up, mastering perception. This feels foundational, right? Controlling what other people actually see.
Absolutely. Law 6 in the book nails this. Court attention at all cost.
At all cost. That sounds intense.
It is. The argument is basically everything gets judged by how it looks. If it's unseen, it counts for nothing. You have to stand out, be conspicuous, like a magnet of attention.
Okay, give us an example. How does that work in practice?
Well, think about P.T. Barnum, the showman. Legend.
Right, the circus guy.
Exactly. So 1836, he's managing a circus in Annapolis. Opening day, he walks through town looking sharp. Suddenly, someone shouts out, mistaking him for this notorious figure, Reverend Avery, who everyone was talking about.
Oh, wow. What did Barnum do?
Did he correct them? Nope. He just sort of leaned into it, enjoyed the buzz, and guess what? The circus was packed that night and every night after. He used that manufactured identity, that mistaken perception to create hype.
That's brilliant in a way. Pure perception management.
Totally. And he did other things too. He once hired a beggar, gave him 5 bricks.
5 bricks.
Yeah, just 5 bricks, told him to walk slowly around a few blocks, stopping now and then to shift the bricks from one arm to the other.
Why?
People gathered. They were completely baffled, trying to figure out what on earth this guy was doing. It generated massive word-of-mouth buzz for his museum, all for the cost of hiring one guy for a day. Pure theater.
Amazing. Okay, who else?
Then there's Count Victor Lustig, a master con artist.
Yes, him again.
He used attention differently. He'd check into fancy hotels, act really aloof, mysterious, cultivating this air of mystery.
So people would be intrigued.
Exactly. They became desperate for his confidence, just to be seen with this enigmatic figure, and while they were busy trying to solve the mystery of him.
He was conning them.
He was orchestrating his cons, yeah. The mystery itself was the distraction, his most powerful tool.
And sometimes it's not subtle at all, right? Like that Lola Montez story.
Oh, yeah. The courtesan aiming for Count Otto von Reichberg, King Ludwig of Bavaria's aide.
She knew he liked pretty women.
So she waits till he's having breakfast outside, rides by on her horse, and then whoops, accidentally falls off right at his feet.
Talk about making an entrance. You don't forget that.
Exactly. An immediate, unforgettable impression. It's not just getting attention, it's becoming a story people want to be part of. That's powerful.
Okay, so attention is key. But sometimes it's about changing the whole picture, right? Law 25. Recreate yourself.
Yeah, forge a new identity. Something that commands attention, never bores people. You become the master of your own image, not just accepting the one you're given.
Like Julius Caesar.
Perfect example. He wasn't just a general. He carefully built this image as a great public showman.
How so?
Dramatic appearances, big gestures, speeches the common person could easily grasp. He knew controlling the performance meant controlling the narrative.
And George Sand, The author?
Aurora Dupin du Devant, yeah. She didn't just use a male pen named George Sand. She went all in.
How do you mean?
She exaggerated a masculine look, men's coats, heavy boots, gray hats, smoked cigars publicly. It was a complete reinvention in 1830s Paris, a powerful new identity that grabbed attention and challenged everything.
So it's about actively crafting
Yeah.
how you're perceived.
Definitely. Intentional identity construction.
Okay, this next one feels sneaky. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker seem dumber than your mark.
Right. Make your targets feel smarter than you. That way their guard drops. They don't suspect you have ulterior motives because, hey, you seem kind of dim.
Like those con artists, Arnold and Slack, with the fake diamond mine.
Exactly. They deliberately played up this clodhopper image for the New York millionaires, ill-fitting clothes, acting totally naive about the big city.
So the millionaires felt superior.
They literally laughed at them, never dreamed these hicks were the ones playing them. It exploits that bias we have judging competence by appearance. If someone seems less sharp, we get overconfident.
Makes you vulnerable. Wow. Okay, what about using honesty? Law 12.
Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim.
Selective honesty.
Yeah, the idea is one single sincere-seeming move can cover up tons of dishonest ones. It lowers the guard of even really suspicious people.
Like the yellow kid, wow.
Classic case. He ran this elaborate con with a fixed boxing match. To convince the mark, Giesel, it was real, he had his fighter rehearse the fix.
Okay.
Then, during the actual fight, the fighter bites down on a hidden ball of chicken blood in hot water. Looks like a real injury.
Oh, clever. Nasty, but clever.
Giesel panics, thinking he's implicated. Weil then saves him, acts all honest and concerned. Giesel is so relieved he leaves his money behind, totally disarmed by Weil's apparent sincerity. That one honest act sealed the deal.
It's the ultimate misdirection.
And think about Joseph Duveen, the art dealer. His rich clients had too many paintings, faced huge inheritance taxes.
So what did he do?
He helped facilitate Andrew Mellon donating his collection to start the National Gallery of Art in D.C.
A grand gesture.
Seemed incredibly generous, right? But it let his clients dodge taxes and look like philanthropists. And crucially, it made Duveen indispensable for future business. Selective generosity serving his own ends.
And Lustig used this too.
Yeah, with that fake money-copying machine guy, Lawler. When Lawler got suspicious, Lustig didn't run. He calmly offered to return the money, even gave him written instructions for the machine.
Why?
It made Lawler feel treated fairly, so Lawler wouldn't go to the police later. Lustig built trust in that one moment to cover the whole con.
Strategic honesty. Okay, one more in this section. Law 44, the mirror effect.
Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Basically, you mirror your opponent's actions.
Confuse them.
Confuse, disarm, sometimes infuriate, yeah. Like the psychologist Dr. Erickson. He had this couple with marital problems. Instead of telling them what to do,
He mirrored their problem.
yeah, he had them set up a dinner that literally reflected their issue. She got her slow meal, he got his separate dishes. By seeing their own pattern played back, they figured out the solution themselves. He didn't have to instruct them.
Let them see themselves. Sometimes that's the most effective way.
And sometimes, yeah, the most infuriating. But it disarms direct confrontation.
Okay, so controlling perception is one thing, but then you need to act, right? Or maybe not act. That brings us to strategic engagement, knowing when to move, when to wait.
Exactly. And Law 9 is really interesting here. Win through your actions, never through argument.
Never through argument? Why not?
The book argues that any win you get through argument is basically a Pyrrhic victory. You might win the point, but you create resentment. It's much more powerful to get people to agree through demonstration. Actions, not words.
Like Michelangelo and the Statue of David?
Perfect example. The official, Soderini, complained the nose was too big.
And Michelangelo knew arguing was pointless.
Right. Soderini prided himself on his taste. So Michelangelo climbs up, takes his chisel, pretends to chip away at the nose, but really just lets a little marble dust fall from his hand.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Then he asks Soderini, how's that? And Soderini, having seen the improvement, declares it perfect. Michelangelo changed the perception without touching the statue or starting a fight.
Demonstrated, didn't argue. Got it. But when action is needed, Law 28 says, go big. Enter action with boldness.
Yeah, timidity is dangerous. Boldness apparently strikes fear, creates authority.
Like Lustig selling the Eiffel Tower.
I mean, talk about bold. Selling a national monument for scrap metal, it's absurd. But he acted with such absolute confidence, such boldness, that it projected this aura of power. People bought into it because he seemed so sure.
Confidence is contagious.
It really can be. And Balboa, remember him?
Mhm.
Facing arrest by the Spanish.
Yeah.
He makes this incredibly bold move, decides to cross the Isthmus of Panama, just goes for it.
It worked.
Totally changed the game. Got him off the hook for arrest and led to his famous discovery. Sometimes a bold, decisive action, even in a bad spot, can reset everything.
Signals conviction. Okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes the move is retreat. Law 22, the surrender tactic.
Transform weakness into power. When you're weaker, the law suggests, don't fight a losing battle for honor's sake. Surrender strategically.
To gain time.
Gain time, maybe frustrate your conqueror, wait for their power to wane. Think of Bertolt Brecht during the McCarthy era.
The playwright. He was subpoenaed, right?
Yeah, part of the Hollywood 19. Most wanted to be confrontational, play the martyr, even risk jail. Brecht disagreed.
What did he do?
He chose to cooperate, gave ambiguous answers, played their game just enough. Why? To preserve his ability to actually work, to write. He surrendered the symbolic fight to keep his practical power. He saw the longer game.
Hey, utility over pride. Interesting. Okay. What about presence versus absence? Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor.
Right. Once you're established, pulling back strategically can make people want you more, respect you more. Too much presence, always being around, can lead to being taken for granted.
Like Napoleon's return. The 100 Days.
Exactly. Initially, huge excitement, delirium, but France was broke, exhausted. His constant presence, the constant demand, eventually wore everyone out, led to his final defeat, overexposure.
But Ninon de Lenclos, the courtesan,
Mm.
she did the opposite.
Well, she used absence strategically, kept her lovers wanting more for decades by these constant feints at withdrawal, never let herself become too familiar, too available.
Made her presence a valuable commodity. The power of scarcity.
Precisely. What's rare is often valued more, but...
There's the catch.
Yeah, don't take it too far. Law 18 warns, do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous.
So absence is good, but isolation is bad.
Exactly. Being social, connected, that's key to power. Isolation cuts you off from information, makes you vulnerable, an easy target.
Machiavelli thought fortresses were a mistake.
She did. Often became symbols of isolation, targets. Contrast that with Louis XIV at Versailles.
He didn't isolate himself.
Quite the opposite. He made Versailles the absolute center of everything. All activity, all information flowed through him there. He wasn't isolated, he was the hub. Protected by being connected, not cut off.
All right, let's shift gears to relationships. Allies, enemies, how you manage all that. Law 7 is, well, it's pretty blunt. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Yeah, it's provocative. The idea is using the skills, the effort, the wisdom of others to advance your own cause and making sure you get the credit for the final result.
The Edison versus Tesla example comes to mind. Feels rough.
It is a contentious one, definitely. Edison hires Tesla. Tesla works like crazy, improves Edison's stuff, even offers a massive redesign. Edison agrees, then allegedly reneges on payment, and actively tries to sabotage Tesla's competing AC current research.
But Tesla's AC won out eventually.
It did, yeah. But the law here isn't just about stealing ideas. It's about positioning yourself so you benefit most from others' contributions, even if they're the real innovators, making sure the credit and the rewards flow to you.
It sounds ruthless.
It can be, but there's another angle, maybe less ruthless, the idea of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Like Isaac Newton said.
Exactly. He acknowledged his work built on centuries of previous science. Shakespeare borrowed heavily from Plutarch and others for plots and characters.
So it's not always theft.
And no, it can be about synthesis. Taking existing work, building on it, and presenting it in a way that elevates your perceived genius, making it your own unique contribution, even if the building blocks came from elsewhere.
Leveraging, not just taking. Okay. What about Law 11? Making people dependent.
Learn to keep people dependent on you. The key to your own independence, the book suggests, is making sure you are always needed, always wanted. Don't teach people so much they can do without you.
Michelangelo and Pope Julius II.
Yeah.
Despite all their fights.
That's a great illustration. They argued constantly. Michelangelo even stormed off back to Florence, but the Pope actively sought him out, basically begged him to come back.
Why?
Because there was only one Michelangelo. He had made himself irreplaceable. The most powerful man in Europe was, in that sense, dependent on the artist.
Cultivate unique value.
Got
it. Now, when you need help, Law 13 says forget mercy or gratitude.
Yeah. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. Figure out what's in it for them and emphasize that.
Like Yelu Chitai with Genghis Khan.
Exactly. The Mongols were going to destroy Chinese culture, turn farmland into pasture. Appealing to mercy wouldn't work.
So what did he do?
He appealed to the Khan's self-interest, argued that taxing the Chinese would bring in way more wealth than exterminating them. He spoke purely in terms of practical gain for the Khan, saved a culture by hitting the right nerve.
Smart. And Louis XIV did this subtly.
Master of it, he'd give these unexpected, targeted gifts to nobles who might oppose him a nice job, a valuable painting. Soften them up.
So they felt indebted.
Less indebted maybe than just positively inclined. It appeals to their immediate self-interest, makes them more receptive before he asks for a favor, much smoother than reminding them of old debts or asking for pity.
People act on their own benefit. Makes sense. Okay, Law 26. This one's dark. The scapegoat.
Conceal your mistakes. Have a scapegoat around to take the blame. Maintain your flawless image by making sure someone else takes the fall for errors.
Like that Han general, Tao Tao.
Yeah, troops were demoralized because battle flags were missing, likely his oversight. His solution, blame a cook, execute him publicly,
To restore morale.
and project an image of control. He hid his mistake behind someone else's execution, protected his authority.
And Cesar Borgia, with his lieutenant, Romero Dorco.
Even more dramatic. Dorco had been cruel implementing Borgia's orders. To win back popular support, Borgia had Dorco publicly, brutally executed, framed him as the sole source of the cruelty, instantly shifted all the anger away from himself.
Wow. Using someone as a lightning rod.
And Cleopatra used Roman generals as her cat's paws, didn't she?
How so?
They did the ugly but necessary work, eliminating rivals, consolidating power, things that needed doing but would tarnish her image. She let them take the political heat, appear destructive, while she remained seemingly above it all.
Keep your own hands clean, publicly at least. Okay? Related to who you associate with. Law 10. Infection.
Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Basically, recognize people who seem to drag disaster and misery around with them, infectors, and get away from them before you get pulled down, too.
Like Lola Montez again.
She's used as an example, yeah. Despite her charm and cunning, the book points out her relationships often ended in disaster for the men involved. King Ludwig of Bavaria, forced to abdicate after riots linked to her. Others met misfortune, too.
So bad luck or toxic personalities can be contagious?
That's the idea. You can get enmeshed in their problems, dragged down by their negativity or poor judgment. Steer clear.
Okay, last one in this section, Law 46. Never appear too perfect.
Right. Being too perfect, too flawless, apparently makes people envious. And envy is dangerous because it works silently, undermining your support. So it's better to seem a little flawed.
Cosimo de' Medici in Florence knew this.
He seemed to. Immensely powerful, incredibly wealthy, but he cultivated this modest public image, gave to charity, built a relatively humble palace, appeared unassuming, which helped deflect the envy that could have destroyed him.
Don't provoke envy. But didn't Michelangelo use envy?
Yes. When his rival, Bramante, tried to sabotage him with the Sistine Chapel Commission, hoping he'd fail.
Michelangelo used that.
He used Bramante's envy as fuel. It spurred him on to create arguably his greatest masterpiece, making Bramante suffer watching his success. Turn the envy back on its source, a psychological judo move.
Okay, let's talk about time and adaptation. Playing the long game. Law 29 stresses planning. Plan all the way to the end.
Crucial. Foresight.
Yeah.
Looking beyond the immediate crisis or opportunity, overcoming that very human tendency to just react to what's right in front of us.
Like Bismarck unifying Germany.
A prime example. He becomes Prussian premier, everyone's pushing for immediate action. Maybe war. Does he jump in? No.
He waits.
He patiently spends years building up the military, consolidating power. Only when everything is perfectly aligned, then he orchestrates the war, the 7 Weeks' War, precisely calculated to achieve his long-term goal, a unified Germany under Prussia. Grand strategy in action.
Seeing the end from the beginning, which leads to Law 33, master the art of timing.
Yes. Never seem rushed, always patient. Be like a detective, searching for the exact right moment. And when that moment comes, strike hard and fast.
Madame de Pompadour, Louis XV's mistress, was good at this.
Remarkably so. Her position was always precarious. She kept it for years by mastering timing, knowing when to push, when to pull back, when to make a request, when to simply wait. Never overplaying her hand.
Patience and precision. And Pancho Villa, using forced time.
Yeah, when the U.S. Army was chasing him, he didn't necessarily outfight them directly. He led them on this punishing chase through brutal terrain.
To wear them out.
Exactly. He exploited their impatience, their timetable. He controlled the tempo, forcing them onto his clock, draining their resources and will. Timing isn't just about waiting for the right moment. Sometimes it's about creating delays or manipulating the pace.
Actively shaping time, not just reacting to it.
Okay.
But then there's knowing when to quit. Law 47.
Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. That moment of victory is actually really dangerous.
Why?
Arrogance kicks in. You get overconfident, push too far, go beyond your original goal, and end up creating more enemies, losing what you gained.
Like Cyrus the Great.
After so many wins, he got greedy, arrogant, refused reasonable terms from the Sajtai queen, pushed for more, and it led to his downfall. His death, in fact. He didn't know when to stop.
But Madame de Pompadour did.
Back to her again, yes. Her success, the book argues, was partly due to not pressing her luck. Recognizing limits, consolidating gains, not trying to grab too much power, which might have triggered a backlash, knowing when enough is enough.
Avoiding that hubris. Okay, Law 41 is about legacy. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes.
It's just harder to shine if you're constantly compared to a brilliant predecessor. The advice is to establish your own name, your own identity, change course, don't just follow their path.
Like Louis XV failing to live up to Louis XIV.
Right, he inherited this incredible foundation, but he couldn't establish his own authority, his own vision. Lived in that massive shadow, got consumed by court politics and bad advice, squandered the legacy.
But Napoleon III managed it. Nephew of the great Napoleon.
He did it quite cleverly. He used the famous name and legend to get power initially. But once he was emperor, he quickly established his own distinct style of rule, his own projects. He leveraged the legacy, then pivoted to make his own mark.
Use it as a launch pad, not a cage. Smart. Okay,
Yeah.
Law 48 sounds very fluid. Assume formlessness.
Be like water, adaptable, elusive, like the sea god Proteus who could change shape at will. That was his power. You couldn't grasp him.
How does that work in practice? Like Japan.
The book suggests Japan's historical willingness to adopt and adapt foreign cultures, sometimes appearing weak or easily influenced, actually protected it. It made them inscrutable, adaptable, hard to pin down and conquer. They seduced outsiders rather than presenting a fixed target.
And Mao's communists during the Chinese Civil War.
A military example. They became elusive and formless, dispersed into small, mobile units, hard to find, hard to fight. They could melt away and reappear elsewhere. No fixed front line, no central target to destroy, made them incredibly difficult to crush.
Ultimate adaptability. Okay, last one on adaptation. Law 45. Change, but slowly.
Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. People inherently resist drastic, sudden change. It creates anxiety, backlash. Slow, gradual evolution is usually more effective and sustainable.
Oliver Cromwell's reforms in England backfired.
Massively. He pushed too hard, too fast with his Puritan reforms, created huge resentment, instability, and eventually his whole system collapsed after his death. A warning against radical top-down change imposed too quickly.
And even science resists sudden change.
It's interesting, yeah. Darwin's evolution, Salk's vaccines, Planck's quantum physics, huge breakthroughs. But they faced intense opposition, often not just from religion, but from fellow scientists invested in the old ways of thinking. People get attached to existing paradigms, even in science. Gradual acceptance is often the path.
All right, final section. This dives deep into the psychology of it all, tapping into belief, emotion. Law 27 is about creating a following, almost like a cult.
Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following.
Yeah, it taps into that deep human desire for meaning, for answers, for belonging, appeal to fantasies, fill emotional voids, like Francesco Borri, the alchemist.
Right. He hinted at these mystical secrets, promised transformation, even wealth, as much gold as we desire, from the Philosopher's Stone. He wasn't just offering alchemy, he was offering hope, magic, a compelling story that filled a need. People flocked to him.
And that mountain doctor, Michael Schupak.
Mid-1700s, he built this huge following. His treatments were often theatrical, soothing. He played on people's belief, their hypochondria even, making them believe so strongly in his power that they effectively willed themselves into health. He tapped into their need to believe in a healer, a charismatic figure.
Offering a fantasy that fills a void. Powerful stuff. Okay, Law 31. Control the options.
Get others to play with the cards you deal. Basically, limit their choices so they inevitably move in the direction you want while maybe feeling like they still have some agency.
General Sherman in the Civil War. The horns of a dilemma.
Classic example. He'd feint left, feint right. The Confederates never knew where the real attack was coming. They had to stretch their forces thin, try to cover both options.
Exhausting them.
Exactly. He controlled their perceived options, forced them into a reactive posture, and maneuvered them without necessarily needing a massive direct battle sometimes. Illusion of choice, but he held the real control.
Okay. Law 40 warns against the free lunch.
Despise the free lunch. Anything offered for free is suspect. It often comes with hidden strings, obligations, or maybe it's just worthless. Paying your own way keeps you independent.
Like that legalist, Yusuf ibn Jafar el-Abdali, charging high fees.
Right. He made his students pay well for his lessons. Why? They valued it more, learned more thoroughly, and they weren't beholden to him afterward. Value is often tied to cost. What's free is often perceived as cheap.
And Pizarro looking for El Dorado, the free info cost him dearly.
Terrible example of the trap. He got free information from tortured locals. It led him deeper and deeper into the deadly jungle, costing countless lives and resources. That free tip was a disaster. Be wary of gifts and free advice.
Hidden costs. Okay, finally, Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others.
Yes, coercion, using force, it just creates resentment, resistance. Seduction, emotional influence that's more powerful. It loosens people's will from the inside.
Like Chuko Liang and the barbarian king, Mengwo.
Amazing story. Liang captured this king, Mengwo, 7 times and released him each time.
7 times. Why?
Instead of crushing him with force, Liang treated him with respect, generosity. He slowly won Mengwo's loyalty, his heart, turned a fierce enemy into a devoted ally. True conquest through emotional influence, not just military might.
Winning allegiance, not just compliance. And Louis XIV again.
His targeted generosity worked this way too, funding local projects, giving those coveted gifts. It wasn't just bribery, it was subtly winning the hearts and minds of potentially troublesome nobles, disarming opposition through seeming benevolence. A willing follower is always better than a resentful one forced to obey. Hashtag, tag, tag, outro, outro.
Wow. Okay, that was quite a journey through the 48 laws of power. We've really seen how controlling perception, engaging strategically, managing relationships, mastering time, and tapping into psychology are presented as these, well, crucial levers of influence.
Yeah, the core message seems to be about understanding the hidden gears behind the visible displays of power. It really invites you to look more critically at social interactions, doesn't it? To see the game being played.
Whether you choose to play it yourself or just understand it better to navigate your own world, as you said.
Exactly. It's about awareness.
And the book leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. It says, essentially, any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good.
It's a challenging statement. It definitely makes you think.
It really does. What does that imply about the choices you make every day navigating your own life, your own interactions? Something profound to consider long after this deep dive ends.